Hi friends, I am here to share a story with you again today. Now I know that you have been reading Rosie, Revere, Engineer, and I have already shared with you this book called I Wonder Why Zippers Have Teeth that's about inventions. But as we continue to read Rosie, Revere, Engineer, I had some more questions. Last time we talked about why people invent things. And we learned that people invent things to make life easier for themselves or for the people around them. Sometimes they invent things because people need something fun to do, like play with a frisbee, and sometimes they invent things by accident, like Post-it notes, when they accidentally made the glue wrong, but they found out it was just right for the paper to stick and unstick really easily. So as we continue to read Rosie Revere, I had another question about inventions. I'm curious to know, how do people invent things? We know why they do it, but I'm curious about how they do it. So let's read our book, I Wonder Why Zippers Have Teeth, and Other Questions About Inventions, so that we can find out. So I am going to go to the table of contents again, and remember that table of contents tells us everything that's in this book. And sometimes when we read a nonfiction book or a book that's true, it has facts in it, there's a lot of information in this book, and sometimes these books can be really, really long. And so this book, I don't want to read the whole thing. I've already read the first pages about why do people invent things. And I don't need to read the whole thing, so I'm going to look, and I see some pages here that say, which new invention was soon on everybody's lips? So I'm really curious to know about this new invention, because I'm thinking that's going to tell me a bit about how things are invented. So I'm going to turn to page 6. So here is page 6. It says, which new invention was soon on everybody's lips? In 1915, American scientists came up with a small invention that was a huge success. It was a creamy color crayon inside a case that could be wound up and used in a second. The very first lipstick. So that's really interesting. The very first lipstick was invented in 1915. Oh, and then here's some information. It's a little bit more about lipstick. It says ancient Egyptian women didn't have wind-up lipsticks, but they did color their lips. They used golden clay mixed with juicy tree sap. So that's interesting. So we know that lipstick has been around for a really long time, but finally in 1915, they actually put it in a small container that ladies could carry around with them, and it was sort of like a crayon. All right, this question says, who wore a mouth full of hippo teeth? About 2,500 years ago, people began to make false teeth from ivory or bone. Hippo bone was popular, but so were ox, cat, and human bones. Unfortunately, all these false teeth soon turned brown and started to rot. Yuck. So that's interesting. So they used different kinds of bones from animals to make teeth, but it didn't work that well because those things would go bad after a while. Before lipstick, lip colors came in a pot. Many of them were waxes and ointments colored with plant dyes such as grape juice. So just like in ancient Egypt, it was a lip color that was in a pot instead of the little crayon that you can push up inside the case. The very first hair dryers were made from vacuum cleaners. Alexandra Godfrey invented the first electric hair dryer in 1890. That's very interesting. That's something that we still use today. Why were Band-Aids invented? Earl Dixon invented Band-Aids for his wife, who kept cutting herself in the kitchen. He stuck small squares of cloth onto pieces of tape, covering them carefully to stop the glue drying out. Whenever his wife cut herself, she grabbed a piece of the tape and stuck it on. So that's really interesting. So he noticed that his wife was getting little cuts, and so he just made these things to help her, and they turned out to be this really amazing invention of Band-Aids. Before Mr. King Camp Gillette invented safe modern razors in 1895, men shaved with sharp cutthroat razors and hoped their hands wouldn't slip. So a long time ago, they didn't have the kind of safety razors that we have now. So this is really interesting. I'm noticing something. A lot of inventions are made by people trying to help themselves or trying to make their jobs easier. This is interesting. Let's keep reading. Who flushed the first toilet? 400 years ago, Sir John Harington built a flushing toilet for his godmother, Queen Elizabeth I. In those days, very few homes had water pipes or drains, so ordinary people had to carry on using their chamber pots. So it was different. They didn't have toilets back then. All right, so here's a picture of a shower. The problem with this shower from the 1800s was that you had to pump the water yourself by foot. No wonder it never really caught on. About 100 years ago, flush toilets were highly prized pieces of furniture. They were often beautifully decorated with fruit, flowers, animals, or shells. Who first jumped in the bath? The people of Greece, Rome, and the Indus Valley in Pakistan all enjoyed a bath in ancient times. But as time went by, baths went out of fashion and many people never even washed. They used perfumes to cover up the stink. I'm glad that we take baths and showers now. Let's see, I see a picture of a pig and there's a man chasing the pig with scissors. The Chinese used pig's hairs to make the first toothbrushes more than 500 years ago. Luckily for pigs, nylon brushes came along in the 1930s. So we didn't have to use animal hair anymore. We could use nylon, which is a man-made material. How did horses help keep carpets clean? The first carpet cleaning machine was towed by horses. It was parked outside the house because of the smelly gasoline engine. Long pipes stretched through the windows and sucked up all of the dirt. It was a spectacle, and people often invited their friends around to watch. So a spectacle is something that you see that's really big and new and different. So everybody was really curious and wanted to watch. So I'm noticing that a lot of these things that were invented were to help people to keep clean and sanitary. So on this page, we kind of talked about lipstick. We talked about how people made inventions to help themselves, to make their jobs easier. And here we talked about how people made inventions to make things cleaner and more sanitary. So that's very interesting. So I'm curious to know what you all think and what you all learned from this story. So, how do people invent things?